this is Algebra 2, Lesson 45. We're going to talk about the difference of two squares theorem, and we're starting on page 200. The two equations, x squared equals 4 and x squared minus 4 equals 0, are two different forms of the same equation. In B, it's written as a difference of two squares. X squared is the square of x. 4 is the square of 2. So we can, it can be written as a difference of two squares and can be solved by factoring. So we can rewrite this as x squared minus 2 squared equals 0. We can factor that as x minus 2 times x plus 2. This will give us x squared. This will give us negative 4. The inside will give us negative 2x and the outside will give us positive 2x, and then those will cancel, leaving us with x squared minus 4. Now we can solve this for x. So x minus 2 equals 0, or x plus 2 equals 0. If x minus 2 equals 0, then x equals 2. If x plus 2 equals 0, then x equals minus 2. And so x equals plus or minus 2. Any equation in the form p squared equals q squared can be solved by rewriting the equation as a difference of two squares and factoring. So we have p squared equals q squared. If we subtract q from both sides, we'll have p squared minus q squared equals 0. And now we can solve this as a difference of two squares. So p minus q times p plus q is how we would factor that, equals 0. And using the zero factor theorem, we would find that p equals plus or minus q. When we do these problems, we are always going to get two solutions. One is going to be positive and one is going to be negative. Formally stated, the difference of two squares theorem states that if p and q are real numbers, and if p squared equals q squared, then p equals q, or p equals negative q. This theorem gives us quick solutions to problems in which a squared variable is equal to a constant. So if p squared equals q squared, then p has to equal plus or minus q. If x squared equals 3, then x has to equal plus or minus the square root of 3. If x squared equals 5, then x has to equal plus or minus the square root of 5. If x plus 2 squared equals 3, then x plus 2 equals plus or minus the square root of 3. And we can work this out so that x equals negative 2, so we're subtracting 2 from both sides, plus or minus the square root of 3. If p minus 4 quantity squared equals 2, then p minus 4 equals plus or minus the square root of 5. We add 4 to both sides to get the p by itself, and p equals 4 plus or minus the square root of 5. If m plus 3/4 quantity squared equals 7, then m plus 3/4 equals plus or minus the square root of 7. We subtract 3/4 from both sides to get m by itself, and m equals negative 3/4 plus or minus the square root of 7. These answers are very rarely going to be pretty. They are often going to be two terms with a plus or minus in the middle. Don't lose that plus or minus. It's very important. Okay? So let's try some of these. We're going to solve x plus 17 quantity squared equals 2. So using the difference of two squares theorem, we can say that x plus 17, we're taking the square root of both sides, so x plus 17 equals the square root of 2, and it's plus or minus the square root of 2. Now we can subtract 17 from both sides, and we get x equals negative 17 plus or minus the square root of 2. We can check both solutions by putting this back in here for x, and we will get negative 17 plus the square root of 2 plus 17 squared equals 2. These actually cancel. We've got a positive 17 and a negative 17. So we end up with the square root of 2 squared equals 2. And the square root of 2 does equal 2. Or the square root of 2 squared does equal 2. So 2 equals 2, and that's true. Okay, if we try this with negative 2, this is going to be negative 17 minus the square root of 2 plus 17, because that's what's here, squared, and this should also equal 2. So here once again, we've got a positive 17 and a negative 17, and they cancel. So we're left with negative 2, this negative minus the square root of 2 squared, which should equal 2. And this negative, the negative square root of 2 squared does indeed equal 2. Because a negative times a negative is a positive. And the square root of 2 times the square root of 2 equals 2. So this is once again true. Okay? Let's try another one. We have x plus 2 over 5, quantity squared equals 3. So if we take the square root of both sides, then x plus 2/5 equals the square root of 3. And that's the positive or negative square root of 3. We're going to subtract 2/5 from both sides to get the x by itself. And x equals negative 2/5 plus or minus the square root of 3. Okay? If we put this back in and check it, it's also going to work out correctly, because this is negative 2/5. We'd be adding it back into here. So we would have negative 2/5 plus the square root of 3 plus 2/5, and these two are going to cancel and leave us with the square root of 3 squared, which equals 3. If we use the negative, then negative 2/5 and 2/5 is still going to cancel, and the negative square root of 3 squared is also going to equal 3. So those are going to check out true. Think through those so you know if your answer is correct. Okay? That is it for this lesson. Try your practice problems in your homework and let me know if you have any questions. Thanks.